They don't care.
Nobody wants
they're
to
gonna
see
keep
pictures
leading with
of your
that.
dicks.
Nobody ever.
Ever.
Never.
Like, there's nothing attractive about that.
No.
So, yeah. But, yeah.
Jacob, are we rolling yet? Okay, just checking. All right. So you did mention Date Me DSM.
Yeah.
So that's why you're here.
Yeah.
At some point in time, I started getting your advertisements.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess because I'm a guy and I'm single, and
I'm targeting you.
I think basically you probably up your ante to my age range, which is like.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 50.
Okay.
I'll be 50 this month.
Okay.
And so I was watching your ads, and I thought, this is spectacular. Like, these ads are just amazing. Adversely, I had reached out to a couple of my female friends who said, she kind of annoys me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've gotten that feedback yet. I mean, I thought they were amazing. I've heard people say they're amazing. I've heard people say that she annoys me somehow.
Right. Well, they don't have to follow me.
That's right. Then they don't, and they don't, and they were
don't.
like, no, I won't. But I thought, okay, that's interesting because my perspective obviously is not everybody's perspective, but
Right.
also I would say that I like to say that like the 90% of the people like me.
Yeah.
And 10% of the people just do not like me.
Right.
Like, I've got a 10% of all people in the world who just are not going to like me. I'm just not their cup of tea.
Correct.
So I started getting these ads. I started this podcast studio. This is the episode number 2.
Yep.
And I didn't say this in the last episode, so I'm going to say it real quick.
Yeah.
Like and follow, subscribe, whatever, click the bell, whatever the people who do that stuff do. And so I reached out, and I made sure that I reached out to some people I knew would say yes, and I reached out to some people I didn't know that would say yes.
Right.
You were one of the people I didn't know that would say yes.
I'm always willing to talk.
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
especially when there's a mic involved.
and like I told you, I was kind of upset when I reached out over Instagram and you didn't respond.
Right.
So then I went to your website and sent a contact list.
Right.
The first contact list anybody ever responded to. I was like, well, let's see what happens. Click, and then almost not instantly, but it felt instantly to me.
I had so many DMs like all the time, just like people, talking trash to me, or people being rude, or just people asking questions. So, I just kind of filter some things out. So, I'm just not used to that. Like with my other businesses, like nobody has questions, you know, but with this, it's so new to people that there's tons of questions, or there's people that are like, why aren't you doing stuff for us? And I'm like, well, we'll get there. Right.
Yeah, right.
I know my demographic. Like
I'm one person.
I'm one person. And at the end of the day, it's also a business for me. So I have to do what makes sense for me in my time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
What are some examples of what people want that you haven't offered yet that you're thinking about?
I think I've offered everything. I've offered an older demographic, which that was great. I've offered LGBTQ plus type of events, one of those. And the ones that don't do well, like I'll probably just do like once a quarter. That's kind of in my mind what I'll do. And I think a lot of people probably don't know, if you don't follow me on my other, social media pages, that like Date Me DSM is not full time for me. Like I'm doing 1 to 2 events a month. So when people are like, you should do this, you should do that, I'm like, yeah, we'll get there. It just might not be for a couple months. But I think a lot of people are just eager and they're wanting to find somebody. And I get that. And I'm very much in the driver's seat here. Like, it's my business. I'm 100% in control. Like, I'm not going to let somebody else run these events. Like, yes, could I do something every week?
Right.
Absolutely. But I think that the hype of this is that there's not that many.
This should be a build-up.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, there's a wait list. I got to get a ticket quick.
You probably get watered down like Tinder if you did that. Like, it wouldn't be
as fun. Yeah. And we're in Des Moines. Like, it's not DC. It's not New York. Like, we kind of all know each other, essentially. Like, especially in the queer community. I think, my guy friends that are gay are like, we all know each other. I was like, but do you know each other?
Do you really know each other?
Do you really know each other? I was like, but those events are really fun. I think the one that I did was for, 45 to 60. I think if I were to have taken that and done like a typical size of event that I usually do, which is 25 men, 25 women, I think it would have been too much.
What do you mean by too much?
Like too much talking, too much navigating. Like, I think that like smaller for a little older makes more sense for me. And I mean, my mom is not single, but she's 63, and she's like, yeah, there's no way I want to talk to 25 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
You went on 12 dates essentially, versus where when I do these for 25 to 35 year olds or 35 to 45, they're talking to 25 people in one night. So it just depends. I mean, I'll play around with it. Like I told you, it's kind of a social experiment. And
so let's talk about my experience real quick.
Yeah.
So I reached out to you. You said yes, you would do it. Then you emailed me back and said maybe we can talk about why guys are hard to get to come to these events, which we'll get to in a minute. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, I'm a guy, I'm single, and I'm going to podcast with you.
Right.
I might as well join in.
Right.
So I went and bought a ticket. I don't know if you knew that was me when I bought it. Okay.
I did. Yep.
So I thought, okay,
I know who everybody is.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's a little scary. We'll get back to that. That's ominous.
Yeah.
All right. I think ominous is gonna be the word for my podcasts. So I said it in the last one. So I signed up. I was relatively excited. I had actually had a trip planned for that weekend, business trip, and it got canceled. And so I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I showed up with zero expectations, and that's kind of unlike me.
Yeah.
Usually I'll have some expectations, but I wasn't really looking to meet anybody.
Right.
I was really looking to analyze like the process, what you did, how it was going, how many people were there, what they were like, when I got there. So I did arrive.
Yeah.
When I got there, checked in, went and joined guys at a table.
Yep.
And they were already talking like they knew each other.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of somewhat shocked, but also not shocked that maybe they knew each other. So when I finally got a pause, I said, "Do you guys already know each other?" And they said no, and I was surprised. But they were talking about an industry. I go, so you guys like work in the same industry? Yeah, we just found that out. So they're talking about work. And so they asked me at the end of that. They asked me like, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, well, I try to have as much fun as possible.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't really want to talk industry because guys are like that, right?
Yeah.
That's an icebreaker for guys. And I said, do you guys think these women at this table are talking about what they do for work? Probably not.
Probably not.
So
They're talking about how nervous they probably are.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, little did I know, because I've never been to a speed dating thing, that
Most people haven't.
They were women who drug their friends to the speed dating thing. So for guys out there, the women there are probably there with somebody else. So you're going to be talked about almost instantly.
Yeah. I think that's just a lot of people, even the younger demographics, they try to bring a friend, but a lot of people don't have single friends, and it's a confidence thing too. I mean, I've met a lot of people who are extremely introverted, but they come to these.
Yeah.
And I think it's a confidence booster too for people to be able to go out and to now maybe you'll never come to one of these Date Me DSM events again, but you've done it and you can say you've done it, and maybe it just boosts your confidence a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think I was pretty surprised and impressed, and while it was like something out of a movie, right? Because you've seen many movies where they do speed dating, and this comedy ensues. I also found that where I started, the story began, and then I had a hard time asking the same questions of another person. It's like my story continued throughout each table.
You're just starting over. It's an interview, really, essentially.
That's right. Then at the end, I had to rush out. So I did my 12 or 13 dates. I don't remember what it was.
12, I think is what it was.
I think
12 women.
Was there 12 women
12
there?
or 13, yeah, maybe.
I think there was 13,
Maybe
and there was
13.
only 12 guys.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
And so one poor girl had to always sit
Yep.
there with
and that's
nobody.
usually how it is. There's
Okay.
always like more women than men.
Right.
Even with speed dating, I try to do equal.
Do you guys hear that?
Yeah. There's always way more women than men that also are on my wait list too.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of my videos are me just like trying to get men, you know what I mean, to attend these events.
Yep.
So,
Have you ever thought about asking a guy to help you advertise towards men?
yeah, when I do those like little street interviews and things like that, I feel like that also helps. I try to get guys like on my videos a lot too. But I think for me, it's more important to also more so show the women that are coming to these, because then when guys see the page, they're like, oh, okay, there are attractive women that are going to these. There are
Yep.
women that that are going to these. Like, I think there's dating events around, and not necessarily in Des Moines, but like there are places who have the opposite of what I'm having. There's too many guys.
Really?
And not enough women.
I would think that that's the way that would go, because
There's more men statistically online too. More men do online dating
Yep.
statistically.
Well, because women don't need to be online to get hit on.
Right. I mean, I did.
Men don't get hit on online or in real life.
Right. Yeah.
And so
Unless you get a woman like me who will definitely
just
hit
walk
on you.
up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might as well. What do you have to lose? All somebody's going to say is no.
I could see that. Well, I mean, once you get used to that rejection, right?
A rejection a day is a slay, is what I say.
So that's right. I love that.
Yeah, just get rejected. I always say the more you get rejected, the closer you are to finding potentially your person. And I went on over 50 dates before I met my husband. So, and he was kind of one of the first guys that like could handle me.
50 first dates,
like
or 50 dates.
Probably 50 dates. I think there were only a couple.
You
in there
only
that
had
were
50 dates before you met your husband?
Yeah, probably.
I'd say that's pretty
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was 25 when I met him, so
right. Okay.
He's a good first husband. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
So for now,
yeah,
he's great.
Yeah, the person you marry is never.
I'm like, I probably won't ever get married again if this doesn't work out or something happens. I always say I'm gonna find like a rich old lady who finds me funny, who just wants me to take me on vacation with her, and we'll travel the world together. We'll just be besties.
If you could find two of those, that'd be great.
Yeah, right.
I'll be right there with you.
Yes, that's the idea. I'm an old soul, so a lot of friends that I do have are 20 plus years, 20 to 30 years older than me.
Right.
And I really just love the older people. I have lots of friends my age, but I'm going to drinks, with people in their 60s, and they just they love my energy, I think, and I think
we all want that energy back, probably.
Yeah.
So at the end of that, I had to get up and go because my son was in town, and I forgot to get the QR code for the people for the matching and stuff. So, and I reach out to you afterwards. I'm like, hey, I need
the QR code.
The QR code. I need the link. And then, so in the flash, I should have taken notes for all the things I wanted to talk about on this, but I definitely didn't grab many names. Yeah. So I remember I sent you. So I thought maybe there would be names on the list, and it would cue me, and it did not. There were no names. Yeah, which I think is probably safe. But then I remember I posed you a riddle. Like, I know this person's name, and then also I know this person's name, but also that's not the person. It's her friend that she brought.
And I did it. I think I figured it out for you. I figured it. I mean, when there's only half the amount of people there that are usually there, it's easy for me to remember.
Before I hit submit, I thought to myself, "Oh, this is so bad."
You're not the first person to do that, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm not making enough money to be able to figure these riddles out from people. But that's one thing that people come to my events. They're like, well, how do I remember people? And I'm just like, take out your phone, put them in your phone. I mean, at the end of the day, could I take Polaroids of everybody coming here? Absolutely. But I think that there's also some type of weirdness to that, to do that to people, to have your picture on a board, or even if it's inside of an app or on a Facebook page. I'm like, you shouldn't be liking everybody here. There should be maybe just a couple people that you really connected with.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. So, in general, who puts in the most matches? Is it guys or girls? Guys for sure.
Always.
It's always I had a guy, cast a wide net.
Yeah, I had a guy that put every single girl down. That's weird.
He just said all of them.
He remembered. He wrote down everybody's names.
Did he really?
So now there's pros and cons to that, right? I have a Excel spreadsheet. One of the girls that helps me with my events, she's super smart. That's she's in law school.
That's what
she's
she
just
does,
smart.
Yeah.
She just figures it out. I think she probably uses AI somehow to do this.
Sure.
Which AI to me is still kind of something I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to use that yet. But
you will.
So she goes in and she'll match it. And there's obviously the more matches somebody has, the better statistically my business looks, right?
Yes.
So if there's 45 people that come to my event and over 60% of people get a match and there's 60 matches. So for instance, we did an event a couple weeks ago. It was a speed dating event. 45 people came and 20 or 30 people got matches, but we had 60 matches because multiple people got multiple matches. So that looks good on my end. But then it's the back end of it. It's now I have to go through. There were people who put 10, 15, 20, and I'm like, you did not connect with you're just trying to figure out, this is what people are trying to do. Because I don't tell you who puts your name down, because that defeats the purpose. I only tell you if you match with somebody. I'm not going to tell you that Susan put your name down, but you didn't put Susan's name down. I'm not telling you that info.
Yeah, you don't
I'm not going to stroke your ego.
Sure.
So they're trying to figure out if anybody put their name down. And there's a lot of people that come to these events that don't even get their name put down. That's just the dating game.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how it goes. When you're in this room, this is a very, very, very small percentage of single people that are around. And I think when people don't get their name put down, I'm like, this is a very small percentage
right.
of the single people in Central Iowa or Des Moines. So don't be like deterred by this. Like this is dating. But yeah, so now I kind of have said you can put 5 people down.
Oh, was that a rule?
Like now the last event I had, I was like, you get 5.
Yeah.
And I think that
That's
for
a good
that
idea.
one, I just was like, it makes you like think, okay, who are the 5 people? If I have 5,
Right.
which not a lot of people even have that, you know, most girls are putting down probably 3, I would say on average. But guys are putting down more.
Yeah.
I think guys are probably overwhelmed at the amount of women that are at these too. Like
they're overwhelming events.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
would
on
probably,
both sides.
I mean, I 100% would have gone to these if I was single. Absolutely. Just because I'm a social butterfly.
Me too.
And I think they're entertaining, especially if you can bring a friend. I think they're also just entertaining. You might not find anyone.
I don't think people should go there for entertainment.
They're entertaining, but they're also fun, and it opens you up to other possibilities besides online dating.
Yeah, one of the things I don't like is when women say, well, I just came with my friend.
Because
right?
I'm like, she
Because
needed a
I was
buddy.
the support, yeah.
And it's like, get out of here.
Yeah. Now, the 2 people that I did match with, they both were friends of somebody who was there. So that was interesting to say the least, like when I found that out.
Right.
But I mean, and I'm glad that they did go because I think you should be supportive of your friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, if your friends see that interaction that you've had with somebody and they say, yeah, this is a good thing or this is a bad thing, let's talk about the 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 minutes is obviously not enough time to meet somebody and know them. And so it's got to be a physical, chemical, intellectual, maybe even energetical match on a very minute level, right? So it's just a meet and greet. One thing that I would say for guys who are thinking about going but don't want to go is it's the best way to put your foot forward for women that, because on Tinder and Bumble and what are the other ones? Hinge and something.
Yeah, Coffee Meets Bagel, whatever.
Yeah.
All of those.
Yeah, those things, people don't actually get to know you. There's some
it's
words.
A 1 second swipe.
Yeah, it's a 1 second swipe. But at least this
could be your
is a
future
5
wife
minute.
you just swiped
I
on.
mean, you've got some, yeah, absolutely. Or your husband,
Or
realistically.
husband, yeah.
I mean, I think most guys just swipe on everybody pretty much. However, I think that you get this time where you get to completely have somebody's
full attention
for 5 minutes. And I bet most women are like, I can't believe I've gotten to sit in front of this guy for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think that it also forces people to talk to people maybe they necessarily wouldn't talk to at a bar or any, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I think, you know, as you get older, you start to figure out like, okay, I think when you're young, you are like, I have a type. This is what I want, blah, blah, blah. And then there's people that are like, okay, well, that's not working. So I always tell people like, maybe if you're doing online dating, maybe swipe on somebody that's like your interest, like they're curious, but you necessarily wouldn't like go out with them, but like talk to them, you know? I would have never in a million years ever have talked to my husband at a bar. Like he's 5'5", which is not what I liked. I liked guys that were 6'5" and 300 pounds.
Every woman does.
Right.
Every woman
I mean, I
wants
liked
the
like
tall
the
guy.
big guys that like didn't have 6 packs.
Yeah.
Like
you were into lumberjacks.
I'm a lumberjack girl, and he's a mini lumberjack.
Okay.
So
nice.
And he was, you know, freshly out of the Marine Corps, and so I knew I was gonna have to deal with a lot with that. And 3 tours.
A short guy out of the Marine Corps, huh?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Tatted up, not close to his family, which, you know, so we're polar opposites.
Sure.
However, we think alike when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, you'd have to have it.
And he's quiet. He doesn't really have social media. You know, you don't see a lot of him anywhere, minus like my personal Facebook page.
So he's not the life of the party.
He is not. He sits in the corner and he lets me be number one, and that's why it works.
Yeah.
He lets me be in control. You know, I'm the breadwinner. I start these businesses, and he's fully supportive of everything.
Nice.
And I don't think there are lots of guys that are obviously for that, but then there's lots of guys who aren't, and they're like, no, that's not what I want in somebody. And
wait a minute, what are we talking about? A lot of guys that are for what?
For women being more successful than them, but then
outgoing
but then there's men that aren't. And I don't know, like, you know, for me, I've always had to be kind of like the center of attention. That's just who I am, and people will always tell you that. You know,
You like to be the center of attention.
I've been performing since I was 2 years old, you know, improv and theater in college. And so for me, when I met him, I was like, he's got to be okay with a very independent, outspoken woman.
Right.
And he was married prior to being with me, and that's not like what he was with. That's not who his mother was with, or who his mom was. He always had to take care of somebody, and he's never once had to take care of me. I can take care of myself, and I think that it was appealing to him that he didn't have to take care of me. So, but then there's the side of him that's like, he's extremely loyal, due to his background. He's very protective of me, but like quietly protective of me.
Due to his background.
Yep, due to his background. And so, I love him. There's obviously a lot of days that I hate him. Today's one of them.
I'm sorry
That's
to hear
marriage.
about that, buddy.
And I never once ever was like, I'm going to be married. Like we've been together 10 years and I married him after 8. It took me 8 years to whip him into shape. I mean, we've had ups and downs. And so I know the struggles that people go through in relationships. And, I'm not a perfect person, nor is he.
Let's go back to what you said.
Yeah.
So you said you would have never talked to him in a bar because
of the way he looks.
Just because of the way he looks.
Yeah. And I think that's bad to think like that.
Yep.
But that's like human instincts, it's just natural for us to be attracted to somebody instantly. And I think that's what you're getting when you're doing online dating is you might like scroll down and like look at their bio, but like the first thing you're seeing is photos.
Yeah.
So
and the photos that they want you to see.
And the photos that they want you to see. Right. Exactly. And it's like they either look like them or they don't. And I think when you come to these events, you know right away what somebody looks like. That's why people love these.
But also people look different when they're moving. So some people look better when they're moving.
Yeah.
And some people look better when they're still.
Right.
In a photo. And then their movements aren't that great. And so I think I was like, going back to, I was relatively surprised, how much fun I had. Now, I understand that some people wouldn't have had that much fun. I wasn't expecting to go in with any, I had nothing on my mind of anything happening.
Yeah.
And then I think when I got there, I was a little nervous, and it's pretty hard to make me nervous when I'm alone. And so I was sitting out in my car, and I was...
Before or after?
Before.
Okay.
And I kind of started doing the doom scroll or whatever the kids are calling it. And I'm like, okay, you're dumb. Just go in.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares?
And I have to say it to myself sometimes. Yeah. And I'm not anxious. I don't have society... What is it called? Social anxiety.
Social anxiety, yeah.
I don't have any of that per se, but sometimes when I feel like I've got to go and, I want to say perform, but not perform, but I feel like I've got to be on.
Yeah.
And I can't, but then I tell myself, well, you don't have to be on. You just go and be yourself and you'll be fine and whatever. So it was okay. It was interesting to see the large range of different types of people that were there.
Yep. And I get that. That's all across the board
of
the types of people that are coming to these, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I think at my younger events, I really like, and I have a TikTok video where I'm really trying to get like the blue collar guys there. Like, it's like, where are they? And my husband's like, we're working.
Yeah, we're working. We're
already
sleeping
married.
Or
we're working. Yeah. Or we're already married.
Yeah.
Or we're going through a divorce or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, those are the types of guys that like I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to the guys with dirt under their nails. Like, I'm not attracted to the guys in the business suits. And that's a lot, we get a lot of that. We get a lot of like lawyers or teachers or people with finance backgrounds. But I'm like, where's the guy that's like a welder, or in the manufacturing world, or farmers? I mean, again, they're all working.
Sure.
So that's really the other type, of men that I'm really trying to get at this event is like the middle class working man it's kind of similar to almost my husband, really.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, and a lot of that's what my friends married too. So I think that, there are lots of women who are attracted to that.
Well, let's stop and make sure that we clarify that we do know that lawyers and teachers and accountants do work.
Yeah, they work.
So
a lot. A lot. Yeah. That's just typically, I think, what I'm seeing at my events.
You mean people who use their hand for work and things like that? Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Just kind of like that. Yeah, just like really blue collar type of guys. My husband's a tool and die maker. So and I talk to a lot of these guys that come to these events, and women too. And they're a wide range of people, look wise, age wise, profession wise.
Right.
There's people who come who've had children, who are divorced but don't have children, women and men. So it's not just one specific type of person, which I really like.
Do you ever think about doing do you do a survey after the fact? Send out a survey for people to, how did it go? What was your experience? Stuff like that.
This is really hard for me too. So with surveys, I did them at the beginning. This is just me and how I am. A lot of people, the thing with Date Me DSM is I'm used to businesses that a lot of people just, they love them, right? They don't have really anything negative. I'm spray tanning people, so I'm making you happy. And I'm feeding you with my food truck. So, and with Date Me DSM, like it's never going to be a 5-star business.
That's true.
You're never going to satisfy every single person that comes. So the surveys are really hard for me to read because there are things that people say that are like not in my control. Like, I wish there was this type of guy there. Okay, well, I can't control who's coming to these events. I can't background check these people.
If I could magic up a guy for you, I would.
Yeah, if I could magically like clap and snap my fingers and have a specific type of person in the room, sure, I would. But like, or like somebody like who was like, I wish there was food. Or the food was bad that I had. Well, I can't control the food. Like, or I can't control the drinks. What I can control is that there's people here.
Yeah.
And that, like, would you rather be, like, somebody was like, it was really loud. I'm like, would you have rather been in a room where there was nobody? You know? So the surveys are hard for me to read because I think when people fill them out, they're not
Is it an emotional hard for you to read?
Both.
Okay.
It's like emotional. It's also just like.
It's a lot of work too.
It's a lot of work. Like, I invest a lot of time in this too. And I'm just like, if people could. And, probably 1 out of, the 10 surveys that I did at the beginning, like there was actually like feedback that I was like, I can take this and I can run with this, where a lot of it was just like stuff that I can't control. I can't control what a guy's saying to you.
Sure.
I can't control what comes out of people's mouths. So there's just things like that are hard in the surveys to read. And that's just me and my ego and professional, like when I get a bad Google review, I'm like, it takes me weeks to like get past it.
Well, I'd like to offer you my services. I love analyzing things. Yeah. I'm the type of guy who goes into Walmart and wonders why they put that product there instead of over.
There's a reason to everything.
Always,
especially at Walmart.
So if you ever want somebody to analyze your surveys and just give you a quick summary of like what could be better, I'll do it for free, and I'll do it anytime you want to. I love analyzing stuff. Especially when it comes to dating stuff. Like
people send me messages like on Instagram that I have like really good feedback. So I have those all compiled because testimonials are great, and I really like to get those from people where, especially guys that are coming to these too, that are like, this is way better than what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
My last event I did below the tap room at Ken's Not So Secret Speakeasy. That was the first time I had like these 2 dudes there. They were jacked. They work out every day. Like one does bodybuilding competitions. They both own their own business. They're like painters or like sheetrock guys. So, I wasn't used to those types of guys.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time talking to them, and I was like, they were like, this is actually very different than what we thought it was going to be. And people at that event that had come to a couple other events were like, this was the best event. And I think it was a good event because I did it different. I did it where it was a double date, speed dating. So you had to bring a friend that was single of the same sex.
Sure. Yeah.
So I did one before where it was like you had to bring a friend that was single of the opposite sex. So it was women bringing men that like were vetted. And so I think a lot of women like that option. They do that out in New York. It's this girl's whole business model. It's called We Met Through Friends. And you can't,
That's good.
Her events are just only, you have to bring a friend. So there's pros and cons to that too, of doing an event like that, because and I find a lot of more guys don't have a guy friend to bring. So what I had to do at that event for a couple guys is I had to just be like, buy a ticket and I'll just pair you with somebody.
I don't think that's true. I imagine that most guys have guys that they wouldn't sick on a girl.
They say that, but I'm like, you have a single friend somewhere.
It might be a competition thing.
It is.
It might be a competition thing. Not at my age. I don't think it's a competition thing because I'm hoping that whatever one of my buddies that's single finds somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but maybe at a younger age, but women have their own weird competition too. Like when they keep a guy on the back burner, they don't want to bring that guy to a singles dating mixer because he's the back burner guy.
Right. He's the situationship. Yeah, what they call him, I guess, nowadays.
Or whatever. So I don't want him to find anybody because if I don't find somebody, he's my guy.
And that was the thing I kind of had to worry about is I was like, okay, what if they both like the same guy? But I was like, but also I look at it like, well, you could be talking to the same guy online and not even know it.
That's true. That's true.
It's Des Moines. Like there's not, there's thousands of single people, but I like to say I'm finding the people that aren't online that are coming to my events. And
that's probably not true.
Not for Des Moines,
it's probably closer to the truth.
Yeah.
Like I'm not online dating.
Have you ever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a tragic nightmare. It's an epic tale of woe, whatever you want to call it.
There's so much like studies out there just about like if you go down a rabbit hole of like Bumble and Hinge and Tinder, and the stock market on them and like who owns them. And statistically over the last couple years, they've gone down. And, you know, you never think about online dating, but like it's strategic. They're not showing you all your matches.
They're not showing you all your matches. They want you to pay for it. They don't really want you to find somebody because if you get pulled out of the pool, then
it's like Planet Fitness. They don't actually want you to come to the gym.
No.
You know, Planet
they
Fitness
need that
is
space
model.
for people who actually want to work
right.
out.
It's like a gym membership. Like they don't actually expect you to come. You know, so that's how they make their money. And you pay for a 6-month membership, and that's how they reel you in. I have several girls that work for me that are single, and I always ask them, you know, and they do online dating, but then they delete the app, then they add them back, and then they delete them. So it's just this like tug of war. And I tell people, I'm like, you know, do a 30-day detox of online dating and see what your life is like without it.
And also, like, my advice to women would be to walk up to a guy and say hello, you know, and then get to know them.
Because I think guys don't like to do that because they don't want to be like the creep.
We don't like doing that anymore because, and to go back to what you had said, like, I don't know why guys don't do these things.
Yeah.
I think most of us guys are kind of tired of being put in a box where whatever we do, it's toxic or we're the creep or whatever. And so it's just easier for us to just say, fuck it.
Yeah,
and just
home.
Not do it. Yeah. And say, well, go, you'll go find whatever. And, you know, in being in a city like Des Moines, like I would say I'm more conservative than I am liberal.
Right.
But I've got a lot of liberal tendencies, I guess I would say. Yeah. And honestly, like most of the women, like I'm not really a Trump supporter.
Right.
But also, I don't want to be with somebody who is not willing to entertain that somebody could be good, even though they are a Trump supporter.
Right.
So if you're like swipe left, if you're whatever the bad way, what is it? Swipe right.
I'm like
which
left
way
or
is?
right. Like,
I don't know.
I always get confused.
Swipe bad, the bad way.
Yeah.
If you're a Trump supporter, and but honestly, I don't want to. Even though I'm not really a Trump supporter, I don't want to be around you. If
people that are like,
if you can't be
have
okay
a
with,
yeah, it's all crazy. You know, and my friend who I was just out in DC like a month ago, she does online dating out there, and I mean, in your profile, if you don't have, you know, what you are, then you, like people don't talk to you. Like,
that's right.
You know, are you independent? Are you, you know, any of those, or Republican or Democrat? And so you have to have that in your profile. Where when I was online dating, it was just like how I met my husband, you had to like log on to a desktop. Like there was no app.
Right.
And that was only 10
years ago. You had to go to a website.
Yeah, you had to go to a website. And I met him on Plenty of Fish, which is like a taboo website, I think now.
Well, I think it was then too. I was so naive that I didn't understand
But Tinder didn't really, I mean, it had just come out. There was no Bumble. There was no Hinge. Yep. Like, I mean, I was paying at 23 years old for Match.com.
I had a friend who had me install Tinder when I was relatively newly single, and we were workmates. And so naively, I logged in, and I just thought you were just like, I thought you were just rating. I thought you were just judging people.
Like hot or
That's
not.
all I thought. Yeah. And so I thought it was like hot or not, or rate my rack. I don't know if you remember that one.
Or rate my professor.
So,
I remember
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, you
so,
could rate professors.
And I was just swiping like, nah, yeah. And then all of a sudden it said I matched, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I walked over to his desk. I'm like, what does this mean I matched? Oh, you get to talk to her now. I go, I don't want to talk to this bitch.
Yeah. I just was rating her on her hotness level.
I was just judging these people.
Right. And that's all that online dating is.
That's
it's
all
just
it is.
A quick judge.
Yeah, that's all it is.
So if you're tired of being judged, I'm like, well, come to a Date Me DSM event. So funny story. My last event I did last week was 80 singles that came. It was 28 to 40 year olds. And I let people come that are like a couple years younger, couple, you know. So if you know you're 40, but you're, you know, I meet a lot of guys who are like 40 who've never been married, don't have kids, but they still want that as an option. So they're dating people within the range that still want children, right? Yeah. So they're 32, 33, 34, et cetera. And one of these kids, he's my mom's best friend's son, and he's kind of gotten into shape and really felt confident in himself to like start now dating. I've tried to get him to come to the 9 like heterosexual events that I've had, and he's always like, yeah, I'll come, and he doesn't come. And then it's just a tug of war game on Snapchat.
So you finally popped his cherry?
Yep. So he came to my event, and at the event, there was a girl outside at the end of the event. We were talking, and she's, you know, telling me her sister lives in my neighborhood. And I'm at the event. I always tell people, I'm like, the girls that are here, me and my employees, like, we are your wingman, wingwoman, whatever. Like, so if there's somebody you want to talk to, let us know. We'll introduce you. Like, we'll be there. So she's like, I want to talk to this tall blonde guy. And I was like, oh, come on over. I introduced them. They're now dating.
Oh, nice.
It's been a week and they're like, they've spent every day together. Like, and so it's just crazy to me. Like, I'm like, you're welcome, you know?
Right.
And he didn't think like that was possible for him at these like events. And I was like, granted, that's not everybody. Like everybody obviously doesn't have luck, but that's just also dating. Like you might find somebody at a bar. You might get introduced through friends. Like not everybody gets that. You might meet somebody online, you know?
I find that friends don't really introduce people anymore. It's not like when Harry met Sally. I know I'm probably dating myself.
Yeah.
And I think I was pretty young when that movie came out, but
yeah,
I don't really believe that happens much anymore. I think people are afraid to, you know, get in the mix of somebody else's other.
Well, and your friends, sometimes you think they know you, but they really don't know what your type is.
Right.
And I hear that a lot where people are like, yeah, they set me up with somebody that's like not even anyone I would date because just because we're both single doesn't mean that we belong together.
But that doesn't mean you can't be friends.
Right.
So honestly, like every woman that I talked to at that, I was interested in something about them.
Yeah.
Maybe not to date, but
Right.
I would have been able to talk to them for hours about something.
Yep.
I'm sure. Everybody was so intriguing. Everybody had a story. Everybody had something fun to say. There was only one woman who seemed put off by the whole thing.
Yep.
And
I probably know who it was.
I thought to myself, like, I wouldn't remember her name because I could barely remember any of the names of the people that I would have matched with.
Yeah, you get people that have, you know, that are arrogant and egos and they think that like they're the greatest and that like maybe there wasn't anyone that look wise that she was attracted to. But I think as you talk to some people, they become more attractive. That's what I truly believe.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Because I mean, going to a Date Me DSM event, you're not going to be struck by lightning.
No.
It's just impossible.
Right.
And also if you do get struck by lightning, it's probably a toxic relationship beginning.
Right.
And then also, if you're probably like in your friend's case, if you're dating right away, that's probably a toxic relationship also. I could talk about that.
I wouldn't say they're dating, but they've hung out.
They've hung out, sure.
But they're young. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think she's 25 and he's 30. So it's just like
sure.
that like instant.
It could be good.
Yeah.
It could be good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it won't be. That's why I use the word probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
In general, I think that I've learned, because I've been struck by that lightning before, and I would have been luckier had I burnt down immediately.
Yeah, I don't believe in love at first sight.
There's
I don't
no
believe
such
in
thing.
soulmates.
Yeah.
I believe that like there's people put into your life at the right time.
I believe in soulmates, but I think soulmates are grown. I don't think that soulmates happen. I mean, and I
think you can have multiple soulmates.
I have to believe that because my soulmate's probably in China somewhere, knowing my luck.
Yeah.
Right now, I'll never meet that person if
You
that's
never
if that's a
know.
real thing.
You have to go to China. Yeah. But yeah, you know, my husband, we are old souls. Like he's my soulmate, but that doesn't mean that I can't have, you know, that I think if I would have maybe met other guys that I dated before I met him, like long-term guys, I've only had a couple long-term relationships. I think I might have married them because it was just a different time in my life.
Mm-hmm. You mean like when you met your husband, if you had met them at that same time,
yeah,
there's a chance.
There's a chance.
You
yeah.
grew enough?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep,
You grew enough?
Yeah. And I mean, I think a couple of the guys that I used to date might be gay now. I don't know.
Oh, well, what did you do to them?
What did I do? You know, so, or the last relationship they had was me 10 years ago. So I'm like, was I that crazy? Which probably, I mean, I'm a Taurus, so
yeah.
That says enough about me. But, you know, my husband, when he got married super young, it was your typical like military marriage.
Yeah.
They didn't know each other very great.
Right.
She had a kid with somebody else.
That's most everybody when you get married young.
Right.
You don't really know what you're walking into.
It was like 23. Like statistically, people now are getting married. I think I read the average man is maybe 30 and the average woman is now 28. Where like, you know, when our grandparents were, I mean, it was like 20.
Well, I was married at 22, maybe
Right.
22, and she
And how
was
long
19.
were you married?
Probably about 10 years.
Okay.
10 years. So we were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
And so we're both really good people. A good friend of mine told me this once: is you guys were like ice cream and ketchup. You were both good. You just weren't good together.
Right.
3 wonderful kids. We continued to raise them as best we could after our divorce, but we just grew apart. We weren't close to begin with, and also we weren't given the tools that we needed
Right.
to survive a marriage.
Yeah.
And I think most people aren't. But there are some people who are.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can be the glue in a really bad marriage and keep it going until the other person
Yeah.
realizes what they've got.
For sure. You don't find a lot of people, and this is my stance on this. I don't like the idea of marrying your high school sweetheart. That's just how I've always been. I think like nowadays, there's just so much more that's out there for people. And yeah, you can always go back to like the person you dated in high school. But I think like there's a lot of people that want to experience a little bit of different life. And I think, I just don't meet a lot of, one of the girls that works for me, she married her high school sweetheart, but for them, I'm like, that makes sense. Like you guys are each other's like best friends. You're okay that this is the only person you're ever going to know,
right.
And, but for other people, I think just with social media and the temptations that are out there and like we see this different world than what maybe we saw 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's like, you can easily travel. You can do so much more. Women can do so much more.
I can't speak for the temptation because when I was younger, when I was that age, I didn't have that where I was.
You didn't grow up with Facebook.
I didn't have that stuff.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't that temptation. There was regular life temptation, but man, that was so much smaller than, infinitesimally smaller, if that's a real word or a phrase, than what it is now. I can't even imagine that now, how bad that is.
Yeah, and people experience that, all the time. And infidelity is a real thing. And
it was back then too.
Right.
Yeah,
but it was like the person you met at a grocery store versus like the girl that added you on Facebook and now you're talking to her.
I think that over time it's probably gotten worse in the fact that now men and women do it to each other instead of men just doing it to women.
Absolutely.
And maybe even it's probably starting to kick where men don't do it nearly as much as women. I don't know that for a fact, but I think I read that stat somewhere.
Yeah. The catfish thing is real. Ghosting is real.
Now, do men get catfished by women?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or men get catfished by men posing to be women.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was my husband's second date ever, like online dating. So I think that's crazy to me.
Second online date?
Yeah. So he went on like one
but not
online
a second date ever.
No.
Okay.
No. Second online date that he went on. And the first one was the lady that used her daughter's pictures.
Really?
Yeah. And
did she look anything like her?
No. And he got there and he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And he was like, no. And he just turned around and just left. She was, like 20 or 30 years older than him. And he's like, what? And so I just was like, that's wild.
There are crazy dates
that
like
never happened to me, but I also dated 10 years ago when online dating kind of was actually cool. And it wasn't what it is now. And I think post-COVID, like just things are just wild. My sister is almost 40, met her now boyfriend on Facebook dating, which is a thing.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Because I did that for a short time and everybody is so casual about it. They don't even check it. They don't care. It's not a big deal because you're not paying for it.
Right. I think the same apps have the same people. I mean, Bumble and Hinge. I mean, I think you're seeing
you'll see
the
same people probably.
Yep.
And guys are luckier than women because no women are sending us pictures of their penises.
You'd be surprised.
I might be.
You might get a penis pic from a woman.
Yeah. But they don't lead off with that like some men do. And the problem is, I think, in my estimation, is that it worked once. And once it works once for a guy, they don't care.
Nobody wants to see
keep
pictures of your
that.
dicks.
Nobody ever.
Never. Like there's nothing attractive about that.
No.
What's attractive is that you make a dinner reservation and you plan a date. That's what's attractive. Or you have your shit together. It's kind of what I tell people. So
I had a date once where I got up and walked out, much like your husband.
Yeah.
It wasn't an online date. It was a friend date.
Yeah.
And that was back with flip phones. You remember we had flip phones?
With the razor flip phones.
Yeah. And so I was sitting in a bar. We were having a casual drink. We were talking, and then
so you're already into the date.
Date.
Okay.
And in general, I don't pull up my phone on a date.
Right.
And look at it.
Right.
And I had kids at the time, so if it had rang, I probably would have picked it up.
Right.
But she looks over at me and she says, Did your phone not just go off? And I was confused because I wasn't paying attention to her. And I go, yeah. She goes, well, I want you to check that, and then I'll be back. I'm going to the restroom. And I go, okay. Well, then I pull up my phone. It was a picture of her breasts. And I was like
full breasts?
Okay. All of it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you're sending this to everybody, A.
Oh,
so
yeah. This is just like a picture you have in your profile.
You're not the girl for me.
Yeah.
And B, I got to go.
Yeah. Women, I think, have probably like already photos taken that they're just sending everybody.
Oh, I would imagine because look, I've seen women take selfies of themselves.
Yeah.
And it takes like 4 or 5 iterations of taking a picture before they get one that they're just barely okay with.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine what the process of taking pictures of your boobs are.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that's why I can't be on the news, because somebody has a picture of me somewhere.
Yeah.
My face might not be in it,
You're
but
never going to be the first female
I mean, like,
president.
there was a handful of times in college I probably sent some photos, but that was also on a flip phone. You know, we didn't.
It's grainy.
I didn't have. It was like an Android. Yeah, you don't know it's me. So, I mean, I've got crazy, wild things that I did when I did online dating. Like, people, I would just. You know, we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have FaceTime, because not everybody had an iPhone. So like, I remember Skyping with somebody, and I always tried to do that before I met somebody, especially if I was meeting somebody that maybe like didn't live in my town.
Right.
And I always told people where I was going and things like that. But I remember once I was in college. I think I was in grad school, and I drove from Cedar Falls, Iowa to Mankato, which I think is like 3 hours. Met this dude randomly. Like,
really?
And I just was like, this is a wild story. And I remember a couple years ago, I told my mom about this. Like, she never knew, because this is just not how, you know, she didn't grow up like that.
Sure.
She met, you know, my stepdad at a bar. And so she was like, oh my God, do not tell me this story. I cannot believe you did that. Like, what if he would have murdered you? I was like, well, I told people, you know, where I was going. And that's one thing I think that, you know, we haven't talked about, is like what we as women have to go through to like go on dates, and like nowadays, like how safe we have to be with certain things. And it's unfortunate we live in a world where like we have to get on, you know, I always say Iowa court people before you go on dates with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just a luxury we have in Iowa, that like if somebody, you only get to see people's Iowa records. So if they're from out of state, you're not going to see everything. But
right.
I think that's important too, to see that. And I think a lot of women do that.
I think a lot of people probably should do it. I think men should.
I mean, I do it with a lot of people
well.
I just come in contact with, like, you know, anyone I hire, obviously I do, you know, checks on and things like that. But, you know, so I have a couple funny videos just about like I've Iowa courted, you know, every single guy I've ever dated. And like, I know, you know, I'm like a little PI. Like, I know their, you know, their childhood home. I know like their grandma and grandpa's history, like things like that before I'd go on dates with them. So
and
there's a lot of women like that.
Are you telling me that's literally so that they don't carry you off and murder you?
No, I think it's just curiosity for me.
Okay.
Like, I think it was always just curiosity. And the one thing about my husband, John, he had nothing. He has a very common name, John Bell. You know how many John Bells are floating around Iowa?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything on him. And I was like, this person isn't real.
Was he born here?
Yes, born here, moved around a little bit, but ultimately graduated from like Stewart, out in Stewart. But like, I was like, did his record get like expunged?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, he definitely had a juvenile record, but obviously you can't get that. But you know, I just was like, is this person even real? And he really didn't have any, you know, he had not a record. So, but he had no social media, nothing.
But let's talk about the safety for women.
Yeah, safety.
So let's switch back to that. So women have to be safe.
Yep.
And so it's good for them to look up something or like, I know that
I agree with it 100%.
I know there's secret Facebook groups that women go and talk about guys.
Are we dating the same guy page?
Is that what? Yeah.
Yep. And I don't agree with that page 100%. I don't like that idea.
I think it's a good idea, but I think also it's probably a bad idea at the same time.
You could, you know, I have a friend that's on there, and it was a girl talking shit about him from 10 years ago. People change. There are people who actually do change. And not everybody, like, you might have got cheated on 10 years ago, but like that person it might not be like that now.
Maybe not, but also, I mean, it's incumbent upon the person who you meet somebody. So here's the thing. You meet somebody, you get to know them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just get to know them.
Yep.
And then make your own impression.
Decision, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like the first thing, and I know this, a lot of people I know that are single, like that's the first place they go when they meet a guy is that page. And I'm like,
and they research the guy.
And it's like, yeah, you could do your own like little research, but like the stuff that's on there is just like, oh, he's got 2 kids that he, you know, doesn't even take care of. But it's like a friend of somebody saying that, and it's not even the actual like person that the person, you know, that I have kids with. And I'm part of the page, but I like unfollow it so I don't see anything. But I mean, there's hundreds of posts a day. It's now an app. Yeah. There's now an app for it. Well, yeah, because are we dating the same guy as in every big city? So like, are we dating the same guy as like Des Moines, Cedar Rapids? You know, and then there's like my friend out in DC is like, yeah, there's a DC page too.
Well, it's strange because in the title it says, "Are we dating the same guy?" It doesn't say, "Tell me all the dirt you have on this guy ever." It's just, it should be.
It just doesn't give people a good chance.
So there's a are we dating the same girl DSM?
Correct.
Right. And I don't know if I'm still a part of it, but I found that I was saying things to men that they didn't like. Like they would put on something. If you see this girl, these are some things about her. And I would go on and say, okay, but that's not what this is for. Right. This isn't for you to warn us before we start talking to them. Right. This is so that if I think that I need a check, then you get to come in with your this isn't what that is. And it's about 50-50 on that page, guys who are with me and guys who are against me. Yeah. No, I would want to know right away. Why? Yeah. Why would you want to know right away?
Would you want them
What's
to know
the chances you're going to be talking about to this person?
Yeah.
You know, So it's just, I find those to be deconstructive.
Yeah. Pros and cons of that page. I get it, but I also am like,
well, women. So luckily on the guys page, guys are men. That's a dumb thing to say, I know. But and then we check each other. Yeah. I don't think women check each other as much, and I think they're afraid to check each other. Yeah. I think they're afraid to go, what? Why are you doing this to this man? Are you very angry at him? Yeah. Like, okay, is he your ex? Because if he's your ex, there's a reason why he's your ex. We get that, but that doesn't make him a bad person. Right. That doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah. I believe in people. I believe in second chances for people. I believe in all of that. I believe that there are people out there that do change.
Well, you know what? There's some woman out there who wants that man's crazy. Yeah. And there's some man out there who wants that woman's crazy. Yep. I mean, it's going to happen. I've seen some crazy relationships at work.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. And we work. So, but it's just interesting, you know, that it's like now that's like the first place a lot of people will go check somebody.
Yeah, I imagine. And I think it's because it's gossip and women love gossip.
And this is why like people are getting married as much, you know, like, and that there's many reasons why.
That's
people
probably not the reason, but yeah,
but we now
it's
have
probably
that.
One of them. Yeah,
we now have where we can look people up and look up everything about them.
Well, we were talking about safety. So, and I think that if it is a safety thing, then that's fine, right?
Absolutely.
Like if it is he put me in a bad spot, or he would verbally abuse me, or physically, he gets physical sometimes.
Yeah, and that's something I definitely want to
know.
And
I think that you would definitely want to know that, but also like people can say that stuff and it's not true. So you got to be careful with people who.
Well, yeah, you get somebody in there that had a bad date with this guy and now they're just like lying.
Yeah,
they're just saying crazy shit, and it's like, is that even true?
But also, you know, the thing is, and sorry, Jacob's gonna kill you. You keep kicking that camera.
I'm not used to my feet being able to touch the floor. If you
get where in the world was I?
Safety.
If you get on that website, and I try to tell guys, this is where I was going with this. I try to tell guys, men, if you're impeccable with everything you do when you're around the ladies, other women will reach up and protect you when you're on that site. Mm-hmm. If you're absolutely impeccable, if you have good dates, you don't do anything untoward, you're a gentleman. You do all the things right, even though it doesn't work out.
Absolutely.
That woman is probably going to say, no, I went on like 4 dates with that guy, and he was absolutely spectacular. Yeah. I didn't get any, and I'd like to think, I don't know that for a fact. Right. I'm not on that group. I know that it gets infiltrated.
Has your face ever been on there?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Because you're not supposed to like tell, like that's one thing that like people like yell at people about that I've seen
letting
in the
other
group.
Men know?
Yeah, like somebody will post a picture of a guy and then they'll go like it'll be like a girlfriend. It's like her guy friend and she'll like go tell him. Yeah. And then like I mean, I'm sure there's probably some defamation that have come out of this. I know there has. I know a guy
there's probably been litigation, sure.
Especially if you have, where you have the money and you can go do that.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that like if you can be impeccable with your word, and she didn't have to tell him, she could have just stuck up for him. Yeah. And said, nope. Yeah. This is one of my buddies. Yeah. He's a good guy. Yep. What she's saying is probably true for her, but also it's not necessarily the truth. Yeah. But, people aren't like that nowadays. No. People everybody wants to gossip. That's why Housewife of Atlantic City is a thing.
Yeah. I don't watch any of that. Everyone always is like, what's your favorite reality show? Ever? and it's Rock of Love with Bret Michaels.
See, that's very interesting.
Like, that's like, I will go back and I'll watch that. I cannot watch the Housewives or the Kardashians. I can't watch any of that. I don't even watch Love is Blind. Like, because people are like, do you watch Love is Blind? Like,
I don't even know what those things are.
Yeah, Love is Blind is like people that meet and they're like behind curtains, and you don't meet them until like the end of, not at the end of the show, but it's just a way people are dating without seeing each other first. So it's just based on conversations you're having behind like curtains.
Well, so my favorite reality TV show is, and I know we weren't going to talk about this, but mine is Politics.
Yeah.
Because it's the craziest shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that aside, that's the only reality TV that I really will watch.
Right.
I don't watch TV like TV.
Same.
I'll watch Netflix, and
I
I want to be
don't
able
even have
to
a TV.
click the button and watch whatever I want to watch. So safety's a big thing.
Safety's a big thing. One thing I also wanted to touch on too is that I think for guys that will be listening to this, that I've done, 10 events now. And so I read the room, I see the matches that come out of it. The best guy, like the guys that do the best at these events are not the most attractive guys, right? They're the guys with the good personalities that show up, that have good conversations, that are respectful. And they dress well at these. And they're just not the life of the party, but they just are really connected. They're very engaged in the conversations that they're having.
Right.
And I think that there are people who are like, no, you gotta be like, you have to be the best looking guy in the room. And I'm like, no, those are the ones that, and same for women too. Like the women that are doing the best are, just average women,
So I think you're basically saying be your authentic self.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't come and be somebody else.
Yeah. Because if you do match with somebody, just like in any other situation, if you're not really who you are, then you're probably it's probably not going to go anywhere anyway.
You're seeing people's best versions of themselves essentially at these, same with like your first dates from online dating. Like you're getting the best person, right? So and they're for some people, it's a show. Like they're putting out a show, right?
Yeah. They're
being their best selves. But then for others, they're like, I've done this so many times. I've been on so many first dates that I'm just going to be myself.
So you're basically, the step that you provide is the very first of maybe 5 steps.
Correct.
In dating.
Yeah.
And that's just the meet.
Yeah. I'm providing a space for you to meet. Yep.
Chemistry.
Yep.
And maybe that's it. Maybe you feel butterflies. Maybe you don't. And then after that, it's all up to you guys.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not analyzing like what's happening. Like, are people are matching? Yes. But are people going on dates? Not sure. That's not, and I kind of, like I'd said, I'm evaluating my business and Date Me DSM, that I'm, selling out events, and that there's typically equal amount of women and men in a room. And, our last event, 80 people, like that's crazy. Like I remember looking around the room, didn't get teary eyed, but it's, like I started this, my first event was like June. And so it's crazy to see the growth that Date Me DSM has grown over just the last, 6 months or so, and only doing, maybe 2 events a month or so. Right. So it's just crazy to me. And I do get a lot of repeat, not a lot, but I'd say, some events, maybe 25% of the people there, a little less, are people who've been to other events. That's very telling for me.
Did they come back?
They come back.
They obviously see the
potential. So obviously it like works,
right.
Obviously it wasn't a complete shit show for them. And a lot of people at these like go out afterwards and they just become friends.
Yeah.
You're meeting, and that's one thing we haven't talked about is like when people come to these, women are meeting a lot of women, men are meeting a lot of men, just friends. But then people are also meeting men and women that are like, I see you as a good friend.
That's kind of what I felt when I was meeting people there. I thought, well, I could probably be friends with this person, this guy that I talked to, and obviously I didn't exchange numbers with the men that were there because I don't know that there was any opportunity for that, but maybe that's something you could think about.
It's almost networking too for some people. You meet somebody that's like, oh, you work at Wells Fargo, me too.
Maybe you also have another page, and I'm not trying to heap work on you, but like where you can say, was there a guy there that you like? Was there a guy you wanted to be like maybe
friends
meet up with, maybe have beers with, or something like that, or vice versa with women?
I did an event maybe like 2 weeks ago. Where it was like I called it like it was like the weekend of Halloween. It was like a red flag party. So you had to like write down like what your red flag was. So like my red flag is for me that like I was voted most likely to be on Jerry Springer, like in my high school graduating class. Or some people would be, or like I survived a Catholic school, That's like not what your red flag is for a guy, like guy red flags. It was like, what's something like you're kind of making
what
fun
do
of
I
yourself.
think my red flag? Yeah.
Right.
What do I think my?
So I thought that was funny. And that went really well. There were a lot of girls.
What was the craziest red flag you saw there? No names. Just
No, that's okay. I don't even remember.
You don't?
I don't.
You didn't take pictures of these red flags?
No, I didn't take any pictures. Like, because we were just talking the whole night.
Sure.
You know, we did one bar and then we they were like, this is a bar crawl? Because we went to another bar.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't, but I just was like, well, I know the bartenders at this bar, and I let them know, like, hey, there might be like 15 of us like popping over.
Sure.
And it's a small bar, and I knew they could accommodate. So I'm definitely having another one of those. I think as a 35-year-old woman who's married, and as you get older, you start to like less people.
Mm-hmm.
Your circle of friends gets smaller, and it's really hard to meet other people that for friendships. And I think when you like go to these like candle making classes or wreath classes, like the point of that is like make a candle and make a wreath. Where my events, when I'm doing them for like women that are seeking women for friends, is that like the whole point of this is that you want friends.
Yeah, right.
Where when you go to those, it's kind of like, I don't want to be the weird person being like, hey, do you want to go like grab a drink sometime?
Yeah.
Bumble BFF. Have you ever heard of that?
A long time ago when I was on Bumble, I did, but that was really kind of creepy too, though.
Yeah, Bumble BFF is like,
I had a lot of guys hit on me.
Well, I think also too, like I think when you're like on there and you're on Bumble BFF and maybe you're like, you have a boyfriend or you're married and you're on there, to me, I'm like, are people going to think I'm a swinger? You know what I mean? Like that's something that like crosses my mind, like, which I'm not. But I'm like, is that something? So that's why I've never done Bumble BFF. And I meet a lot of women through, you know, my other businesses. Sure. So, but I think it's nice to have a specific event where the whole point of the event is you're going to leave here with friends, and the whole point of it is that. So like now we're all in like a group chat together, and people will be like, hey, I have an extra ticket to Nikki Glazier tonight at the Hoyt Sherman.
Now, are you planning on doing that for men as well?
Not.
Because men,
somebody else can do that. I think for me to do that, I'd be like, I mean, I could do it. I just haven't thought of it yet.
Okay.
But
I don't know how many men
it's free.
would.
Like,
I don't
I'm
know
not
how many
charging
men
for
would
it.
set up for that, right?
Right. Yeah. And with women, for me, I'm so more well connected. I think that like, there's opportunities for guys to do that around here. Yeah. And there's young professional clubs and networking.
There used to be like Meetup. Remember when Meetup was a thing? I don't know if it's still a thing.
Yeah, I think people still do that. I don't know about much in Des Moines, but I see it occasionally. But like these events, like the meetups from a friend standpoint.
So how good did that event do?
It was good. Yeah. I mean, I think there ended up being maybe like 10 or 15 of us. It was last minute. I wanted to just do something really quick. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything Friday night. Let's just throw an event out. Okay. And I just had people message me and they RSVP'd through like DMs. And I think once I got so many. Like,
so it was you basically held a happy hour.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep. Pretty much it was a happy hour. Like you didn't have to go on Eventbrite and buy a ticket or anything like that. So I wasn't making money off of it. I did these events last year with my food truck. It was called Babes Who Brunch. And those went really well. But it was like the theme of it was just like you're coming out and it's just like a gathering.
Well, I love that you do it. I remember paying for a ticket. Mm-hmm. I don't imagine you're making a boatload of money. No. You're not going to be Jeff Bezos rich at any point soon.
You never know.
So I like to think that you're doing it because it's something you enjoy doing.
Yeah,
I hope that it never becomes so cumbersome that you don't want to do something.
Yeah, you know, there's times on social media. You know, social media is really hard. A lot of some videos that I make and some videos I get a lot of like it's always men. It's never women. It's always men commenting on the videos.
Let's talk about that.
And they're saying like, is it just fat girls that come to these events? Like things like that. And I'm like, really? Like we're really going to say that to me? Yeah. I'm like, one, strange. I'm a plus size woman and we live in Iowa, right?
Right.
Like, you know.
Well, what does that mean? Because I'm only 2 years in Iowa. What is...
You know, I think I've Midwest lived in Iowa. We're Midwest. Like we're average. Like we are athletic. We work out. Like, we're not hiking. We don't live in Colorado.
We're not in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, we're not like
we're not on the beach.
Right. And I'm just like I just would like to think everyone's kind of like me, right? I'm average. And
I think you're selling yourself short.
I know, but I do that.
Okay.
That's what I do to myself.
Because you're short, right?
Because I'm short. I get it. No pun intended. But I'm just like, are there 10s walking around Des Moines? Absolutely. Are there, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, but like, I just kind of am like, the fact that people are like saying that to me, and that just really affects me because I'm like, one, that's not true. And are there plus size men that come to my event? Absolutely. Are there plus size women? Absolutely. There's you've seen from my videos. So I get a lot of that. I get a lot of people that are like, you're not inclusive of certain communities or certain ages. And I'm like, but I am. And I always have to remind people, like, this isn't full time for me. Like, I'm not hosting these every week.
Right. This isn't my job.
But I will say, out of every business I've ever owned, this has been the most fun for me.
Yeah.
So I am having a really
It feels
good time.
like a passion.
It feels like a passion.
Yeah.
I have a passion for people. In my life, I've always done things where I'm like, I've always been a recruiter, and now I'm recruiting for like people to find love.
Right.
I've helped people find jobs and apartments, and I probably should have been a recruiter like in real life.
Okay.
But I wasn't. I'm always doing something like that. Like, I just love to help people, and now I'm just helping people in a different type of way. And it's very interesting to me. It's, I was not a good student, not very smart. Yes, I went to grad school, but that's just because I didn't want to be done with college. Yeah. And I wanted to say I have a master's degree. Like, this, that's so cool. I think that it's just kind of like... the events have it's just been really fun and really cool. And obviously I'm not going to please everybody. Not everybody's going to like my personality.
No. What do you think the percentage of people you hope that are pleased by I'm talking about your, you probably haven't thought about this, but what are your metrics for success, right?
Yeah.
So if let's say that your metric is that 20% of the people are happy with what you are, very happy with what you are doing.
That's too low.
That's too low for you?
That's too low. I'm a very competitive person.
I'm talking very happy. Like, they found somebody and they plan to spend the rest of their life with them. You can't expect that out of like 30 people that 25 of them are, that's an odd number, 24 of them are going to find somebody. So your metrics of success, and I think I, as just as a statistician and somebody who analyzes data all the time, would have to say you can't expect that to be your success goal.
No. My success goal is just getting people out and about, and I'm filling rooms.
And just meeting people.
Right. Yeah. And maybe you went on a date, and maybe the success to me is like you got a match. Okay. But for me, I think the fact like that these rooms are full and that people are having a good time to me. And I would say, gosh, I hope like 90% of people are like loving these. And I mean, you're going to get people at these events that are like, there was nobody there for me. Nobody was cute. Like, nobody was engaging. You're just going to get that one type of person every couple events. But it's Iowa. Like, we're Iowa nice here. Like, we're all very, we're simple people. Right. It's kind of how I see us. I see me as being just like very simple. We don't expect, like, we don't live these lavish lifestyles. Like my friend out in DC that does these dating events. I'm like, what types of people are coming to these events? You live in a city with millions of people. It's also a very political area as well. What types of people are coming out to these? And she does say this. She's like, the women are always way more attractive than the men that show up to these.
Things?
Yeah.
That's what she says?
Yeah. I would say that. And I would say that's true for some of my events, but I feel like a lot of my events are very equal. I think they are very equal. And it just, I think, depends on the night of week I'm hosting them, the age range sometimes I'm hosting, the venue I'm hosting them at. It just really depends. But I'd like to just think that we're in Iowa and we're just simple, average people, and we don't expect a whole lot. And we're not doing, are there people out there doing crazy like cosmetic treatments and things like that? But like, for me, I'm like, a fun day for me is, watching, Hawkeye wrestling and hanging out at home and, with family and friends. And, for others, it's partying. And I'm not the type of girl that's like getting Botox and my hair extensions and tanning in a bed and, things like that all the time. And I think that's just who I've surrounded myself with and friends wise. Like we're small town girls. We're small town Iowa girls.
So you have the opportunity to ask me questions about about what would help. Like,
dating.
Not dating. Well, it could be about dating, but like I went to one of your events. Like, are there any questions that you would ask a person or ask me in specific? I mean, you probably know more about my journey now than you do about most people's journey through the mill.
I feel like I have a very good intuition of people. I can read the room really well. I think that's a skill of mine I have. So I've had a lot of people that are like, are you going to offer like matchmaking services? So it's something down the road that I'm considering and doing. as I build out my website and stuff. And it's like beyond events, what does Date Me Des Moines look like for me?
Right.
And for me, I'm always like, all right, like how can I grow this? What does this look like? I have a large database of single people already in a database that have filled out like forms and things like that. You know, it's probably close to 800 people that are in this like now database. It's just emails at this point, but now I can like set up forms and have people fill out. And so I'm really just trying to figure out what works for me in terms of like, am I going to take on matchmaking and things like that. So for you, I guess I'm not necessarily, maybe dating questions. And I did ask a guy this, he's probably in his late 30s, of like, why more men aren't attending these. And he straight up was like, it's an ego thing. And I don't know for you, if you can, what you can
I don't
say.
think it's in, well, it wouldn't be, so what does he mean? Like, so.
Like, I don't need this, I'm too good for this type of like, but I also think it's also like, I'm so scared. I don't want to be rejected.
I think that guy was probably projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he said that, he was probably projecting.
Yeah.
It's definitely
for him. I think it was an ego thing.
For me, I didn't really consider it an option.
Right.
I think that's what it was, and I mean, I knew it was. Well, I mean, I didn't really know it was there until I got your advertisement. Right. I didn't know it as an option, and then for me also, I think I'm sometimes very naive. The first thing I thought was, I want to do a podcast with this woman. I didn't think about, hey, I'm gonna go on a speed date.
Yeah.
And so I don't. My mind doesn't go there. It's not drawn to that. And I think a lot of guys aren't drawn to that because they don't think of it that way. They're thinking about things way differently than women think about things. So it was easy for me to go. The minute I knew that I should go to this was the minute you said, maybe we should talk about why guys don't go. And I thought, well, why am I not going?
Right.
So I didn't even, that question wasn't posed to me until you posed it. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to go, because if I'm going to podcast with her, I should probably run through the experience and see what it's like.
Yeah. And you got like a small version of some of our events, you know, like they are twice the size of the event that you went to. I think for some people too, it's also it's very overwhelming. I think that there's a level of fear too for people that are more on the introverted side.
People don't like being judged.
Yeah.
And I think
it's easy to be judged online, but in real life,
people don't like being judged. When they're being judged online, they don't recognize that they're being judged.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you have the opportunity to be rejected to your face, it makes it difficult. And so I think that judgment is why most men probably aren't ready for it. Also, men are getting judged more harshly lately than, or in this span of time, than at any other time in the world. So I'll hearken back to months ago when women were saying that they would rather be out in the wilderness with a bear instead of a guy. Right. And so now you've got people telling, that narrative's being churned, and guys are like, well, I mean, good luck with the bear.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to stay at home and play video games.
Right. Also, video games are not attractive. So if that's something you do all day, every day,
I guess that was just my one example of something, right?
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing though, like so if I'm not going to date somebody, what am I going to do with this extra time? Maybe I will play video. Maybe I'll play video games, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll go start a business.
Right.
Maybe I'll build a podcast studio.
Yeah.
Right. And so and I don't think that the narratives that are spoken, I think, are really what's stopping men from really wanting to date or really wanting to be with somebody, because you just get blasted with things that don't make a whole lot of sense.
Do you think you're pickier as you get older?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And do you think
it has nothing to do with looks?
Right. Do you think more men your age, 50, are attracted to 50-year-old women? Like my uncle's 60, and he's like, I'm not attracted to 30-year-old women. Like he's like, I don't find younger girls attractive. You see a lot of guys out here that are dating extremely young women, and that's what they're attracted to. But that's to me, I'm like, I think I'm attracted to men my age. Like, I'm not attracted to a 22-year-old college student,
right. Hold on 1 second. Hey, Jake, will you give me the camera?
Give you the camera?
Yeah, will you put the camera on me?
Yeah.
49.95. I'm not.
When's your birthday? November what?
23rd.
Okay.
I'm not 50 quite yet, so
right.
I don't know if I did that math right, but I just wanted to make sure.
Strange time to do it.
I'm 35 and a half then. I'm 35 and a half.
Nice. Okay, so you're 35.5. Gotcha. Yeah. Now, take that question that you just gave me, boil it down to like one sentence so I can refresh my mind what
I don't even remember what I just said. What I say?
All right. Well, we might rewind the tape. We might not.
Yeah.
I think we're tired of the narrative.
Right.
I think that we are, we're not as toxic as that social media puts us in a place. Right. And I think a lot of people, not just women, but also men, need to recognize that those toxic videos are what gets clicks. And so when those things get clicks, then people do them more. And as people do them more, it shapes the world. And instead of being worried about whether you're the stranger or the bear, or a guy is the stranger or the bear, just authentically walk into something and be yourself, and each time, and eventually you're going to find a person.
Right. I think the narrative around people that are dating that are, 40, 50, 60s is that this is just social media, is that like every older guy wants to date a younger girl. And I don't agree with that.
I think every older guy is willing to give the opportunity. I think willing to give an opportunity. I mean, I've dated younger women. Okay.
What's your dating age range?
I don't know that I have a number.
Okay.
I just recently dated somebody who was a lot younger than me, 34.
Okay.
She came off as mature, and we dated for a very short time, and we just weren't compatible.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I think. Because age is just a number. Now, I would date somebody who is like your thing was like 45 to 60.
Yeah.
I'm fully prepared to date somebody who's a 60-year-old.
Okay.
As long as they're a good person.
Right.
As long as they're going to treat me well, that's all that's really going to matter. And as long as I want to treat them well, that's fine too. So that age range really goes both ways. Now, in most of history, men tend to date down, and women tend to date up, but that's just nature. It's not
right.
It's natural because women are looking for somebody more mature than the men that are their age, and men are looking for somebody who is interested in them.
Right.
And if every woman my age is looking for somebody projected up, then we're probably not going to date. But that gap does narrow.
Yeah.
It does narrow to where women your age will eventually want to date people their age. Well, probably because at my age, the men they were dating are dying. I don't know.
Maybe. For me, I'm like, I couldn't imagine dating right now. Just like for me, it's just like, I just couldn't imagine. Like dating burnout is a real thing. It's hard for people. It's even harder now than it was 10 years ago when I was doing online dating. So, this year, since we're kind of rounding out the year to end of 2024 almost, how many first dates have you gone on?
This year?
Yeah. Because you dated somebody for a little bit, but
yeah, that was one first date.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that would really have been considered a first date.
And how was like
we were friends before.
Okay.
We were
because you're not doing online dating right now.
I'm not. Yeah, no online dating. So I would say, 3.
Okay. Because how are you meeting people?
Or 4.
Or are you not? Are you kind of at the point where you're like, I don't care?
I do care. I want to meet somebody.
Right.
I would say that organically, maybe, but not really. I don't really know. I'm new to Des Moines, so I don't really have a whole lot of friends. Not a whole lot of friends say, hey, I know this guy Rich, and so, and that's fine. And that's fine for me too, because I am very busy as well. Like I do website design. I do social media work. I'm trying to do this. There's just so much stuff going on that it's not even, I think when you get older, it doesn't become a priority.
Right.
And I think that is okay. Also, that's probably how I'm going to find somebody, is not making that a priority, not digging into it.
Just when you least expect it.
And and I don't even know if I believe in that. Like it finds you when you least expect it. But I think that it's also like you put the right energy in instead of the wrong energy. And when you're like trying to date multiple people all the time, first off, you don't have any energy, but you're constantly putting in, because you're trying so hard, that you're putting in the wrong energy. Right? It's hard to find somebody who wants to just kind of move slow. Yeah. Who's just okay with just, hey, let's talk, let's get to know each other. Let's don't have sex.
Yeah.
Right?
And a lot of women, I meet a lot of women like me who I'm very much like, I'm always on the go. Like when I want things, I want them now. Like I want things to happen for me. And I have, a handful of friends, and that's how they date. Like they want somebody that wants to hang out with them all the time. And some of these guys out here, they've been single for so long, like they're very independent. Same with women. They've lived their lives without anybody.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to now bring somebody into the picture.
Well, as a 50-year-old man who knows how to do his laundry and cook and whatever, and I'm not trying to be misogynist, but I'm saying like all the traditional roles, I don't, and I can pay all my bills, and then I go meet somebody who does all of her laundry, cooks all of her meals, and pays all of her bills. Like there isn't a need. So that's lucky because now it's a want.
Right.
Like, do I want to spend my time with you?
Yeah.
My time's precious. Your time's precious. Do we actually want to spend this time together?
Yeah.
But then there are people who are like, if I'm doing something, you need to be doing it with me. But why?
Right.
I mean, we should do things together, but also it shouldn't be everything. Yep. And so I think that as you get older, dating becomes simpler. And you also it's a whole lot easier to say, you know what, this isn't what I want. I wish you well.
Right.
Whereas when you're younger, you don't know how to say those things.
Right.
You're afraid to reject somebody, or you're afraid to be rejected. And so then the people just stick together in a bad relationship for a very long time. I've done it.
I think in society, like especially me, I mean, I grew up with, I grew up with a checklist. Like, okay, you graduate, you go to college, you get married, you have kids.
That was your checklist.
That was my checklist. But that was also what was instilled in me going to a Catholic school too.
Somebody gave you that checklist.
Somebody gave me that checklist, and I was like, yeah,
it.
right. And I was like, yeah, no, fuck no, that's not happening.
Right.
So I'm gonna get married at 33. I'm not gonna have kids. I don't want kids. I'm gonna do things very different than what all of my friends have done that got married very early in life.
Right.
I'm gonna just live a different life than probably what was somewhat expected of me. Just kind of where the area I grew up in, how I grew up. I grew up in a Catholic family, clearly not Catholic, as I say the F word a lot, and I don't go to church. And my uncle's a priest. I always tell people that. So it's just very interesting in how the things that maybe were set for me and how differently I did them. And I think that nowadays that's becoming more common. You're seeing people just doing things a lot differently. And I do think that when you're in your 30s or in your 20s, like there are people are very much more eager to find somebody. And like, it's like, date after date after date after date, and they're not dating authentically anymore. They're just dating to just like quickly find somebody that meets whatever in some ways. And this isn't everybody, obviously, but I think that there are a lot of people who grew up like me who like that's just what we're supposed to do. And finding somebody, obviously everyone wants to be with somebody, regardless if you're sitting at home and you're like, dating sucks, I hate dating, this is horrible, I don't ever want to be with anybody, men suck. I think regardless if it's platonic or romantic, like we all want some type of like connection with somebody. At the end of the day, for me, like I don't do well single. Like I like to be with somebody. I will probably always be with somebody. I might not live with them.
Nobody really wants to be single.
No, I don't think. And if
Even
people
if
tell
they
you
say
that, I'm
that.
like, you've just had it hard. Like you're bitter. Like
Well,
things have sucked for you. So now you're just like, fuck it, I'm
I
done.
think some people think they want to be single. I think some people are happy single. All right. I mean, I tend to be, if I haven't been in a relationship yet to where when I got out of it, I wasn't like,
Thank God.
I'm so glad that's over.
Right.
Right. But that's the way you should feel after you get out of a relationship. At some point, you're going to be like, oh, I really miss that person. But also, if you're, in my opinion, if you're willing to go back and think about all the reasons why you're no longer in a relationship with the person, you go, oh, yeah, I don't know that I really miss that guy or that girl anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and then you can like eventually work it out of your system, and then you're back at it. Like, okay, let me find somebody who is in. Like over my dating history, it feels like everybody wanted to attach immediately.
Yeah.
And that is probably the worst way to go about it, like attaching to somebody right away, and like you make them the center of your attention, and it's almost like love bombing. I don't want to use any of the weird social media things that go on. I mean, love bombing is a real thing, but I guess what I'm saying is like, but you start love bombing each other, and you're infatuated, and then sometimes you can't just keep that up. It's like a woman who's on a dating app and she's getting messages from 10 guys, right? And then she's used to getting all these messages, and then she decides that I'm going to narrow it down to Tim, or Bob, or Steven, or Lance. I don't know. These are or Bryce. Coming up with all the
it's like
common white
names.
guys' names. Yeah. I just created a boy band.
Yeah.
And what happens is inevitably Bryce can't do what the 10 men were doing. Yeah. And so then all of a sudden there's this huge gap, and Bryce isn't fulfilling the need that was there. It was probably a need that she didn't even know that she had, where she was getting all this attention, and now Bryce is just like is underperforming.
It's a high for people.
I
truly feel like, just like social media is like, when I get a lot of likes or a reel does really well, it's euphoric for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when you get a lot of guys liking you on social media, and then you come to a dating event and maybe like it didn't, like that's not what's happening, right? Like you're like, oh, you know, but it's euphoric for a lot of people. There is an addiction behind it. There's some addictive behaviors with online dating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that like people that do really well with online dating, I mean, I meet a lot of brides that I like come in that get spray tans from me, and I'm always like, how did you meet? I would say 9 out of 10 are like, we met online. Well, and that's not for everybody, but every once in a while it's like, oh, I met him at a bar. I'm like, that happens.
Yeah, right.
That's happening for people.
I think not meeting people, because I mean, technically, like, if I were to meet somebody at Date Me DSM thing, I would probably have to boil it down that I met them online, because I saw the ad online and then I met them, and then it was an online thing.
Yep.
And it's not, I don't think there's a natural progression or the natural way to meet somebody, because a long time ago, you married whoever your parents told you married. Right? They were arranged. And then also there was courtship. That's not really a thing anymore. Chivalry is supposedly dead. I don't know that that's really true, but courtship is like hard to find. Also because it's hard to find, because like guys have to strike while the moment's hot. They can't, because if a woman's talking to 10 people and there's a chance she's going to narrow it down to you, there's a certain amount of things that you've got to do to make sure that she does narrow it down to you. Right?
Yeah. I'm very opposite. Like I'm not a feminist by any reason, but I believe, like, for me, I'm like, I pay for every time my husband and I go out, I'm like, I'm just going to pay for it, because I put it on my business card.
Right. Well, that's a whole different story.
I'm like, oh, we're at 801. Oh, we talked about business. Check. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just how I am. Like, I definitely grew up with like, where like, you know, guys open the doors for you and things like that. And I mean, you see that less and less sometimes. I think it just depends on the guy you're dating and how he was raised. And
maybe you do. I don't know. I don't date guys.
I think military guys, for me, that's just, I've dated several. I'm like, that's just how they are. They're very chivalrous.
I'm a door opener for other guys. Like, I'm a door opener.
I'm a door opener for everybody.
Yeah.
Especially an old lady. You're coming out.
Yeah,
door
absolutely.
For you,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, sure.
But I'm very much just kind of how we are. It's very different than probably my life is very different than probably what I envisioned at 18.
Sure.
You know, I never expected it. I never expected to be married and to have businesses or anything like that. So I never expected to be sitting in a podcast talking about a dating event.
Right.
This was not on my 2024 bingo card.
Now, did you actually ask me a question of how it went at your dating? Or did you ask me any questions about my journey in this? Is there
like dating,
like just, in your event?
Oh,
like,
my event. Yeah. So how, I mean, for you, would you, after coming to that event, you were surprised by it, right?
Yeah.
Like you, and for me, like I was like, in my mind, I was like, I didn't think I was going to have that event or the one that was on Friday, because I was like, guys are so last minute with tickets. Like the day before, I think I sold like 10 tickets,
right? Which
I was like, great, we're still having it. I would have loved that event that you came to have been a little bit bigger. For me as well, and for the people that were there, but that's what we got. That's what we worked with. So, and I do think there was a wide variety of men and women there.
I agree.
I do think people were around the same. Like I felt like I didn't feel like anyone was a lot younger or a lot older. I felt like everybody was in their 50s.
Well, it's only 15. It was only 15 years,
which is
range.
A lot. I usually do 10 years.
It is, but it's not when you get to this age.
Right.
It's that range is not a big range.
Okay.
Now, obviously, if it's 22 to 37,
right,
it feels different when you say it that way.
Right.
So that is a large
range.
Plus, most people my age are either divorced and bitter, or they're married and happy, or they're married and unhappy, or what have you, whatever all the ranges that could be in there.
Yep.
So I think there was a pretty good range of people. It was a very eclectic group of people, for sure.
I was very impressed by everybody. I was impressed by the women that came. I was impressed by a couple ladies that had talked to me that were like, I've been single for so long. Like, and my daughter sent me this link. Like, and I should come to it. And it was funny because one of the ladies that I met, her daughter also came to one of my dating events.
Yep.
So like the mom was at a dating event and the daughter was at a dating event.
And the daughter thought enough enough good things about your dating event that she was like,
that she was
"Mom,
like, yeah,
go."
send it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you probably, I think there's pros and cons to the 5 minutes. Like a lot of people, if they connect with somebody, they want more time. But if you didn't connect with somebody, now it's like 5 minutes seems like a really long time.
Really long time, yeah.
To sit there. So
Sure.
yeah, any feedback you want to give me about the event, structure wise, I feel like I have that down a little bit. Like the check-in super easy. You know, feedback I've gotten from other speed dating sometimes is like, it's loud. Okay.
Yeah,
That's just
everybody's
the venue.
talking.
I'm like, everybody's
Yeah,
talking when you
yeah.
get a little closer. That's the whole point of this.
Yes.
More time, but I was like, but that's a lot of people don't want that.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, this guy's a dud or this girl, this isn't happening for me.
Right.
So yeah, any feedback you have about maybe future events for even, I mean, I'd love to do something for people 55 plus. And it's just like open-ended. It's 55 plus.
Yeah, I mean, that might work. I don't know that a whole lot of people that are like 60 plus are even
They're there.
on.
They message me every day.
They do? Oh,
do.
There you go.
I have so many people that are like, and I'm just like, women. It's women. It's always women. It's always women that are like, I'm 62. I'm 65.
Yeah.
I'm 71. And I'm like, fuck. Like, all right, we're going to do an event. You know what I mean? And it's just going to be 55 and then beyond.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I'm like, for me, I obviously have way more followers that are women. Way more people follow me. I think I've even talked to people who own golf courses, and they're like, yeah, more women follow us than men. I think just more women are on social media, or at least consistently.
No, definitely. So like whenever I'm like on Facebook or whatever, and if I'm dating or seeing somebody, they're always like, well, more women like your stuff than men. Well, because men don't typically like
just
things.
Scrolling.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, that dude did that. Okay.
Yeah, that's my husband. He's a scroller. I'm actually a scroller too. I need to like more stuff. But
Yeah.
I just kind of like, flim through my reels and things like that.
But most men are scrollers, and they're not apt to like a dude's stuff. And then, but the thing is also, then you got the flip side of that. When a dude likes your girlfriend's or your wife's thing, the guy's like, why does this guy love this picture of you?
Yeah.
Baby, you're in that picture with me too.
Right.
Maybe he loves that we're together.
Yeah. So what would you do different if you hosted one of these events?
I don't know. I think you did a pretty good job. And I can tell that you've got 10 events under your belt. I think they will get better. If I were to do anything different, I don't think I would do anything different.
That's good.
I mean, I think that it's pretty good. I think that I would probably run a survey afterwards, and even though you have a hard time with that, hand it off to somebody who's not emotionally invested in the business, right? Somebody who can just cut to the chase. You might need a little bit more of this. You might need a little bit of less of that. Yeah.
I hate disappointment, whatever that is. That's just my competitive spirit. And
there's no way in the dating world you're not going to have.
Yeah, I'm like, you're always going to disappoint somebody.
People are going to be upset at the things that happen. Yeah. And I didn't have an upsetting experience. Everybody I talked to was actively engaged in talking with me, and I don't think that it was necessarily me. I think they actively engaged in talking to other people.
It was just different.
I could see how some of the people there would have been hard to talk to.
Yeah.
Like some of the guys could have been hard to talk to. I could see how some of the women could have been hard to talk to. I'm blessed in the fact that I like talking to everybody.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what you look like, what ethnicity you are, what religion you are. I mean, I can come up with questions to ask you about all of those things, no problem, and not even be ashamed to ask you about your race, your ethnicity, your religion. It's all going to be probing questions that I'm honestly curious. Yeah. And so hopefully my authenticity and that curiosity doesn't come off bad, right? And so I don't have a problem in that. So I'm probably not the best person at that, but also I think that like any business, you need to know what your measurables are,
right?
And like what your goal is, and whether you're going to reach it or not, whether you're going to smash that goal, right? So I'd say that your goals are pretty good as far as like getting people to the thing,
to the events,
right?
Yeah. And people are filling out the forms, like people are actually putting down matches. I would say most of my events, I probably have around 60%, sometimes even more, a little bit, that actually fill out a form. So that means there was somebody that they actually connected with, regardless if they get a match or not.
Right.
They thought that there was at least somebody there
who they would like to talk to more.
Yeah, I'd like to, go on a date with them, and if they match with me or not. I've had a couple guys message me that are like, I'm not getting any matches at your event. And again, I'm like, this is such a small, pool of people. So
Right.
people are like, am I doing something different? Like, and I just think that like it's like the odds are in certain people's favor, you know, and things like that. And I think that there are people who do better at these types of events
Yes.
than others.
Yes.
I go, you gotta kind of fake it till you make it. You gotta be extroverted.
I actually wouldn't say that. I would say be authentic. I would say be your most authentic self and show up as you. And there's at some point there's going to be somebody there who's like,
I like that.
this you're mine now.
Right.
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 I kind of joked with my last guest in the green room or the front room.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah.
The loading dock is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
I kind of joked with him. I said, the first girl that I ever dated was black. And that her name was Darnisha.
Yeah.
And she basically walked up to me as a little kid and said, "You're with me now." And he basically said, "That checks out."
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
yeah,
it's just the way it is.
Yep.
Sometimes some woman's going to walk up to you, if you're a guy out there, and say, "You're with me now."
Yeah. This
And
is
then
it. We're
it's
going
it's
on a
up to
date.
you to just go, okay.
That's kind of, and that's how I was. I kind of was just like, yep, I'm going to have to be the person to ask my husband out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. And that should be okay.
Yeah.
If you want equality or equity or whatever,
I would say
E-word
don't
you wanna
wait.
put on, don't wait.
Go for it. If you
Yeah,
want to ask
yeah.
somebody out, ask
them out.
There's
Right.
nothing wrong with it. Men don't look at it like that anymore.
No.
I think that the
No,
times
in
have
fact,
changed.
you're probably saving us a lot of anguish.
Yep, a lot of time.
And we're probably going to actually love you more for that, the
Mm-hmm.
anguish that you saved us in trying to figure out. Because it's not easy being a guy and walking up to a girl in a grocery store, which I don't think I've ever walked up to a girl in a grocery store. But like, I'm trying to harken back to the old days, I think, maybe, where you just start talking to them and then you actually ask them out or get their phone number or whatever. Because I mean, we'll go back to social media. You've got women working out with a specific point to point a phone at a man who's going to look at their butt, right? And can you believe he did that?
Yeah.
Well, I absolutely can believe he did that because there's a lot of rumps that I've looked at in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
I just read a book that in it, it was from 1932, and they did like research that year of people in that area and like marriage license, and people in 1932, I think it was like Philadelphia or something, married somebody that lived within 5 blocks of where they grew up. Like, and that is something that I find very interesting, that like my grandparents met at a grocery store.
Okay.
In northern North Dakota, you know.
Where there's almost no people.
There's no people. And and they didn't know each other. My grandpa had just gotten back from like World War II.
Okay.
I think maybe like he was freshly out of like, he was 20 or 21 when they met.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that I'm just like, and they lived in the kind of the same neighborhood. And I'm like, that doesn't really happen anymore. Like, we don't really meet people often who are at the same grocery store, or going to the same church as us, or are living within the same neighborhood. So it's just funny how like times have changed and how that was like a statistic that they measured in 1932.
Well, now you can meet somebody who lives in British Columbia,
Right.
and date them.
Yeah.
That's the difference, I think.
You can meet people all over the world, and we have so many options. And so that's why I think just dating is very, it's almost like oversaturated a little bit. Like, we just have so many options now.
I think people date too much.
Yeah, we date too much. They go on too many dates. Like, I follow a girl who wrote like an ebook, and she bases her business off of it. And she went on 28 dates in February. So it's like 28 dates in 28 days.
Wow.
So she went on one day every day. I'm like, as a woman, yeah, you could go on
I'd rather
365 dates and never have to pay for a meal, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Some women do that.
Some women do that. Yeah. Like, I follow these TikTokers like in New York, and I mean, there's a girl who she left her corporate job because her whole TikTok is just about her dating. I'm like, what happens when you don't date anymore and you find somebody? Like,
Right. Now what are you going to
what's your
TikTok about?
online presence going to be like then?
And then she's going to probably start talking
So
shit
I'm like,
about
so
her
I
husband.
think in your mind, you're kind of thinking like, I can never find
can
anyone
never
because
find
I'm not
anyone.
going to make any
Oh,
money.
Man, could you imagine? That'd be a horrible
Yeah,
hell.
like that's her whole business is just based on her. Like, she gets ready, she shows you like her getting ready, she talks about the date, and then she talks about her date afterwards, if it was great, if it was not, if there's going to be a second date. But I want to say, I don't know when the video was posted, but I know she's been on like maybe like 15 or something first dates this year.
Goodness.
And there was a guy she dated for a little bit.
Well, 15 first dates isn't that bad.
No,
I think that
It's like 1 a month.
I think
Little
somebody
month.
should probably date 15 if you're looking for somebody.
once a month at least.
Yeah. And that's almost once, twice a month. Yeah.
I mean, I loved going on dates. For me, it was just like, I was like, this is like being on stage.
I used to like going on dates. And I used to like meeting people and asking questions. I used to like the questions and answer phase. I think I'm so over the question and answer phase.
That's what speed dating. That's the only thing about speed dating.
I'm pretty good at asking questions because even afterwards, you ask questions. So what's your favorite color? What's your favorite ice cream type? You know.
Yep.
Tell me something amazing about you. Whatever you ask, you know.
Say some crazy questions.
Yeah.
You need to pull some crazy questions out.
I usually do. I'll ask them, you know, I want to know if the person knows about attachment theory. What's your attachment style?
Yeah. I learned about that in grad school, but I don't remember it. So.
Yeah, you should.
I don't remember anything from grad school.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
I'm like, yeah, it was just a breeze. Definitely clearly I don't do anything with an education degree.
What is it? What's your love language?
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of questions you can ask.
What is your love language?
My love language is probably physical touch and acts of service.
And mine says words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation.
And that makes sense for me.
Yeah.
I love my mom dearly, but I didn't grow up in a family where people were like, oh my God, you're so amazing. Like, da-da-da-da-da, you've done so much. That's why when people give me compliments, it's really hard for me to take because I'm just not used to it.
Right.
And my husband says physical touch. He grew up in a family where like that was not an option for him.
Same.
You know, he moved out when he was 16, kind of had been on his own, and hence why he joined the military.
Yep.
And he was like, it was either that or jail.
Yeah,
and I was like, I think
jail or the streets.
That was like that's a lot of why people join. And you know, his family now is the guys he served with, and so it's just funny that like, and I don't like this morning he got up and he's like trying to give me a hug and I was like, you know how I am in the morning times, I don't like to be touched.
Don't touch me, buddy.
I'm like,
that poor
but
guy.
I was like, but you can tell me I'm a great person today.
Yeah.
I love your
tell
words
me how
of
pretty
affirmation.
I am.
When we got married, my uncle said the wedding and he put in his speech like love languages, like he talked about it.
Okay.
So it's funny to me, but I have taken that quiz. It'd be interesting now. I took it a long time ago, maybe 5 years ago, and that's just what it was. But it'd be interesting if it's changed at all for me.
I would think you would know at this point. You would still be able to like.
I feel like I have all the love languages.
I think
Mine
most
is physical
people
touch.
do. I think there's percentages of them in there, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me also, you know, words of affirmation because I didn't get a whole lot of that as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think that when somebody does express, you know.
That's why when like we talk about these surveys and it's just like people are in them like, and it's almost like I'm okay being like criticized to a point, but for me, I'm like, sometimes it's just hard because I'm so much like, it's so hard for me sometimes to hear negative things about a business, but as a business, I know you have to grow and you have to hear those things in order to grow be a successful business.
Yeah. And what somebody says is only their opinion.
Right.
Unless it is true. Right.
Right.
So
some of these surveys, I'm like, oh yeah, like I said, I'm like, oh, I'll take that info and I'll roll with it. Like I know now not to do certain events at certain places because the acoustics suck or something like that, you know, or things like that.
I think in the last one we went to the vineyard of something or other, Jasper, which is a very nice place. Yeah. Although I think the tables were fold out tables, I think I would have liked something else, and only because. I wanted it to feel like a movie type environment.
Right. I wanted it to feel, and that's the only time I've ever done an event where like I've had like fold out tables.
Yeah.
Like obviously the room people were in, the barrel room. I mean, those were like nice wooden tables, and that's where like the bridal showers happen.
Yeah.
If they were gonna have those, kind of part of me was like, I would have brought tablecloths if I would have known that
if
we
you
were just
had
gonna
known,
have
right.
plastic tables.
But now you know.
But now I know. Yeah,
Maybe,
and now I know that. Yeah,
a handful of tablecloths with
and
you.
I've been there before, and a lot of these places that I have events at, if I've never been there, which most places I have, I just do a quick tour to make sure like everything's like aesthetically the way I want. I'm pretty particular. I get that the ambiance of a place is extremely important because essentially it's a first date.
I think it's important because it is a first date.
Yeah.
Right? It is like, well, it's not, maybe not, it's not a first date, but I would say that it's definitely a place where if you find somebody and you form a life with that person, it's going to be a part of conversations. When people say, where did you first meet? You know, it's important. So, and I don't think it was bad. I'm just saying that if I had one critique of the spot,
I liked the Sunday like afternoon option for some people.
It was great. Yeah, it worked out well.
You know, a lot of my events I like to do at nighttime.
Yeah, Friday nights.
Friday nights. I have one Saturday one booked right now. I'm excited about that one. It's actually at a wedding venue called Vows. So I hope people aren't like turned off by that.
I don't think so.
It's a cool venue.
And if they are, then that's
here.
on them, right? So, that's them projecting.
Right. But I was like, every place we've gone is a wedding venue.
Anybody going to a speed dating place should also recognize that they're actually trying to end up up in a place like
Right,
Val's.
right.
So, and if they're not, they probably shouldn't go speed
Yeah,
dating.
it's down in the East Village. It's really cool. It's just a cool space. The lady that runs it does a really good job. She does like micro.
Now, time out. We're in the East Village right now.
Yeah.
So
it's over on, I don't even know what street it's on, but it's on the same street as like West
what's it
Elm.
nearby? Because I won't know.
The pet store, Jet and Monkeys.
Oh, Jet and Monkeys?
It's like right there.
Oh,
it's
is
right
it?
by Clyde's.
Oh, it's right there. I got you.
So it used to be years ago a coffee shop, and then this lady bought it and turned it into like a space where people can, like if you were like last week, like I want to get married in a week, like they could accommodate you.
Really?
So it's like 2 to 65 people is what the space holds.
Okay, so that's a shameless plug for Val's.
Yeah, shameless plug for Val's.
So, yep.
So I'm doing a couple ugly sweater parties in December.
Okay.
So they're like ugly sweater speed dating events.
Okay.
Whoops. And so I'm having one at Val's.
Okay.
Still figuring all that out age group wise. I'm doing one again at Ken's Not So Secret Speakeasy, which is below the tap room. So just around the corner.
There's another plug from Leah to another.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And then there's one more. So I'm doing
if
3.
If you're charging her for the space, you need to discount it.
Right. And then I'm actually doing a fun one at Either Or.
Okay.
Which is, they have like a really cool
I like that
party
place.
room.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's Lua times 2 or 0.2 or whatever.
So I'm excited about those. They're kind of all like back to back. So I'm just kind of figuring out age, what like range. And I think I may end up doing one, and it might be the one at Either Or, that is like for women to just come out and meet other like women for friendships.
Nice.
So, and the ugly sweater, obviously just, I've yet to do a themed event. So I think it'll be kind of fun just to
That's
get people
interesting.
out. And the one at Ken's will be like the double date again because their tables are set up where it's like meant for 4 people.
Okay. I've never been down there. Even
Yeah,
though.
they're only open 2 days a week.
Okay.
So
Which 2 days?
Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times the weddings that happen at the tap room, people will rent out maybe the space below, and that's where they'll go after
yeah,
they
that's
have to
true.
like close
That's true.
out.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
I see a lot of wedding stuff.
But it's cool. It's a speakeasy. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to all the events I've got in my mind and other places I've reached out and like dinner series I want to host. And there's a lot I want to do with it. I just kind of have to find the right space. I'm very particular. I like places to also be able to have a good space, good drinks, mocktails as well for people that don't drink, and just opportunities for people to get out. And, the promenade happens here on Fridays. So I've got one event that's happening during that.
I don't know the promenade happens on Saturday. What does that mean?
So the East Village Promenade is a huge event that happens here every Friday.
Okay.
So it starts November 22nd and it goes through December 20th. So
is
every
that
Friday.
Christmassy type stuff?
Yep. So the whole.
Okay, so I did know about that.
So yeah. So and businesses stay open late.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll have like cocktails like for free or like discounted like the spas.
How
or
are you going to
salons.
weave that into what you're doing?
I'm just saying, it's just like an opportunity for people to go out afterwards.
Oh,
When I
gotcha.
have the events here.
I understand. Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of people I found out from talking to a girl go out afterwards. Like
Yeah.
people go out as friends and they like, oh, let's go do karaoke.
Really?
And so people go out afterwards. There was like a group of like 20 that went to AJ's and just hung out after.
20 girls after
and
the,
guys. No,
and guys.
and
Okay.
guys. Like so, it's just like
I think if my son wasn't here, I probably would have hung out and talked to some
Yeah.
of the ladies that I was talking to. But I got a text.
Yeah.
and,
And it's a
he's
Sunday
from out of
afternoon,
state,
too.
and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I got to go.
Yeah.
But also I'm a gabber, so I would have just sat there and talked.
And
to
I'm always cautious too of like Saturday events and like football, but I'm like, well, there's enough people that are single that could care less about football, or they're recording it and they could watch it later.
Okay,
Things
so
like that.
as we wrap this up,
Yeah.
go ahead and pitch what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quick.
Yeah. So Date Me DSM is a singles event-based business here in Des Moines where I bring pretty much single people together that are maybe tired of online dating or just tired of being single or being or just going on dates and they're not having great success. And it's just an opportunity for people to gather into a space that everybody in the room is single and everybody there is there for a reason. And most people coming to these events, I'd assume, are more serious dating, right? They're looking for something a little bit more serious. So it's just a safer space for people to gather. And I do these once or twice a month throughout Des Moines, sometimes more. It just kind of depends on what's going on in my life. But they're fun events that we host usually on, some Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, different places around Des Moines. And eventually I'll dabble into not just bars and venues, but like rock climbing. That's on our bucket list.
I love that idea.
I've met with, Climb Iowa to do some stuff with them.
Yep.
That'll be fun. So I'm like, we'll have to figure that out. Like, are you speed dating as you're climbing up the wall? Things like that. But yeah, so Date Me DSM, it's growing. We've had several hundred matches and I've met several hundred people so far in the events that we've done. So yeah, be on the lookout for more at Date Me DSM.
Yep.
And I'll have a website here coming by the end of the year, early January, which is more streamlined. More events will be posted on that. But for now, you can find all of our stuff through Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram
At Date Me DSM.
At Date Me DSM. Yep. Yeah.
Good.
DM me if you have questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I hope we can do this again sometime. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I was so happy to do this podcast.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.